Hey, it's PHNX Cardinals here on a Thursday. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brock. Welcome to your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. We've got mandatory on-field minicamp officially closed in the books. So my partner in crime, Mr. Bo Brock, and I are going to make a checklist, a to-do list for Monti, Ossenfort and company. Bo Brock, what does this team need to do between now and late July when, Shib really hits the fan and it's the start of training camp?
Right. I mean, as far as what they need to do is they have 3 positions or roster spots to fill between now and then to get to the 91 if you include Saikovic's exemption. So Monti Ossenfort's got a couple spots open. We've already seen a couple players that have been, I guess, tied to this organization, from Chase Roulier, the former Washington center, and then you've got Justin Jackson, who I believe I spotted at Arizona Cardinals mandatory minicamp, almost kind of taking a visit. And then another player that's very familiar to the Arizona Cardinals organization, could we see the return of Antoine Wesley, which I would be kind of surprised by. Those are all options, plus many more. Of course, we've seen, a pretty long list that continues as far as free agent running backs, wide receivers, defensive linemen, edge rushers. We're starting to see a couple of them scooped up, but still some pretty prominent names remain.
Yeah, Wesley's an interesting name. And let's start there, Bull Brock. So you had found a tweet from a fellow member of the Arizona Cardinals receiving corps, one Hollywood Brown, basically not adding Antoine Wesley, just typing out his name just with the hourglass symbol. So Wesley was on the Cardinals roster each of the last 2 years. I was at the Dallas game 2 years ago when he jump manned a couple of DBs and scored 2 tutties in that game with Kyler Murray and looked like a good player. I asked Cliff Kingsbury after that game, Bo, I'm like, what do you make of Antoine Wesley? And he thought at the time he could become a nice complementary role player in the Cardinals receiving corps. But then what happened? He got hurt and he missed much of last year. I don't even think he participated or played in a game. And that's unfortunate because the Cardinals had opportunities within the receiving corps. Do you take this as the return of Antoine Wesley, or is Hollywood Brown just making a shout out to his ex-team member?
Well, there's an update to this. This is like the old DeAndre Jordan emoji recruiting battle from the NBA way back when, right? When it looked like he was going, was it to Houston? And then he ended up staying with the Clippers or going to the Mavericks. Can't remember who was involved in that. But Antoine Wesley has responded, quote tweeted Hollywood Brown with the keep quiet emoji, right? And then also he's got the fingers crossed emoji right there. So something is in the works for Wesley. Is it with the Arizona Cardinals? Obviously he's beloved, right? He was still on Hollywood Brown's plane, PJ, to his birthday, right? To some island to celebrate his 26th birthday. So he's obviously, the players on the team still enjoy Wesley. I think he could fit a potential need as far as the wide receiving core goes, and it continues to go in the right direction as far as the size, right? The ability to kind of diversify this receiving core that now, when it started, had a lot more under 6 foot wide receivers, and now that's a little smaller group today, where it's just Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch, and Andre Baccellia, who are the only guys that are under 6 feet. Where I think Antoine Wesley would meet the criteria that Monti Ossenfort and JG want, where they want bigger body wide receivers.
Yeah. So to Dean's point in the chat, he was a Cliff guy. Antoine was a Cliff Kingsbury guy. He played at Texas Tech. It's a guy who Cliff told Steve Keim, let's take a look at, let's bring in. And he helped supplement that Cardinals receiving core late in the year, because you remember at that point, D-Hop wasn't playing in 2021. And that's the game that inevitably locked them up a playoff spot. Antoine Wesley had 2 touchdowns. He's 6'4". He missed all of last year. I thought he was going to be able to at least sleepwalk his way to 400 or 500 yards last year, given the injuries to everybody else, but he himself couldn't stay healthy. And so soft tissue injuries have been a problem for him because he's lengthy, and typically bigger guys have trouble staying healthy. But I would love to see him at least brought back for training camp. Let's see him have a cup of coffee with Kyler and the fellas in August and let the chips fall where they may. But I think, to your point, Bo, I think this says more to, we had a couple releases now that I also want to touch on that you tweeted out with the Cardinals receiving core, that Javon Wims and Auden Tate have been cut by the Cardinals. And so now you look at the landscape of the receiving core, and you mentioned the 4 that are under 6 foot. Do you sense a trend here? Is that number going down seemingly every month, every, calendar year with this team under Drew Petzing? Because it does feel like there's a propensity for this team of favoritism of sorts toward bigger wideouts, which is the stark contrast and the opposite to what Cliff Kingsbury and
Yeah. Well, I think it's also because Hollywood Brown he's going to be one of your main receivers. He's 5'9", and then you've got Rondell Moore, who's 5'7", 5'8", who's potentially your starting slot receiver. So if you're going to rely on those 2 guys who are under 6 feet, but they are able to overcome, of course, them not being bigger bodied wide receivers and less physical, but more kind of they're based on their speed and athleticism. That it's tough. You've got to diversify your wide receiver core with some size. You've got to have some guys that can win the physical one-on-one matchups that you're not necessarily going to see with a Hollywood, with a Rondell, where they're going to be more based on separation and speed and route running. So I think that the old regime didn't care, and it wasn't a good plan, right? And like Wims and Tate were both over 6 feet, but they were only like over 6 feet guys holdovers from Cliff and from Keim. And it's just like it seems to be they're looking, as far as the wide receiver core, they're either cutting bait on guys from the previous regime, or they're looking for a certain set of skills and size that you can kind of tell. It's very transparent what direction they're going with the position.
Yeah, I watched, you take a look at the Jonathan Gannon mic'd up the Cardinals did on their YouTube page. It's good stuff. It's like 4 minutes of Gannon throwing F-bombs around, energetic. It's just everything you want to see from your head coach during a little bit of spring summer ball.
Yeah, it was like when you coach Pee Wee. I think if we mic'd you up, it'd be the same thing.
Ripping F-bombs here at the Maricopa Flag Football League with the 7 and 8 year olds. The parents appreciate that. Andre Bocelli was catching some touchdowns. He had a touchdown catch from Clayton Tune. He had a long bomb touchdown. So he's doing what he can to make the roster. I saw Rondell Moore being kind of used underneath, and you figure, of course, Greg Dortch, who they brought back, they tendered his contract. Hollywood Brown. Like, it does feel like those 4, at least the main 3 guys, are safe. And then they've got Zach Pascal and Michael Wilson. If I put you on the spot right now, how many receivers do you feel like they're going to keep on the active roster?
I would say 7 at the most, right? Yeah. And I think that's the sweet spot. So they have 9 right now. And if they were to add one, that would put them at 10. So it'd be interesting to see if they add one. Probably will, right? And it really feels like the signs are pointing towards Antoine Wesley. And like Wesley, like you mentioned, that to end that year, who is he? What role was he playing down the stretch? Right. He was playing the X wide receiver spot that was occupied before injury to DeAndre Hopkins. Now it's a completely different offense, but I think that there's familiarity. I'm sure there's guys that threw him the ball, from Kyler Murray to Colt McCoy, that say, hey, yeah, we like what we've seen from Wesley when he was healthy. I mean, it was a freak injury that happened in training camp. In the middle of the field. I think we even had the video of it at the time, where it was Christian Matthew just kind of awkwardly got his jersey and pulled him down. And then he had the injury that the Arizona Cardinals thought he might be able to avoid surgery on, and ended up not being able to do so, and then came back and then re-injured himself or tore his quad. It was just a mess for Wesley, but he's still, I think those are injuries he can come back from and vie for a spot. I don't think if they sign him, it's an automatic, he's going to make this team and break camp with this team. But I think he gives you, more depth at the position. It's not going to bolster by any means their wide receiver core.
Yeah. And so we figure there's going to be continued movement at that group, whether they sign Antoine Wesley, maybe they look at another veteran if he's cut at some point. So let's shift our attention to the running back group. And you kind of broke some news yesterday, Bo Brock, on the program, that you thought you saw Josh Jackson, Justin Jackson, ex-Detroit Lion Charger running back, who I think was a late round pick once upon a time, who's been a very competent NFL running back, has over 4 yards per carry, 1,200 yards in his brief career. Whether it's Jackson, I'm still holding out hope, along with many, that it's going to be Kareem Hunt, who we've heard nothing about, which is very bizarre. I don't think they're going to play in the Dalvin Cook space at this point, did you see Dalvin Cook wants at least $10 million? Good luck with that, my man. So it does feel like, I mean, would you be surprised if they opened camp and they didn't add one veteran back?
Yeah,
I certainly
for
would
sure.
be.
I mean, they opened the regular season with 5 running backs last year. You usually have like 6 to 7 in camp,
Yeah.
and they have 5 right now on the roster. I think there's no doubt that one of these 3 spots is going to go to a running back. Now, is it going to be Justin Jackson? I mean, it certainly looked like he visited the organization. Still, that's unconfirmed. But he has ties to Dave Sears, who was in Detroit. And he would be a good complement potentially in the run game for James Conner. I mean, and it meets kind of the criteria where it's like, I think Kareem Hunt's going to hold out for even more money, or maybe a team that's going to be more in position to contend or push for a playoff spot and give him a big role. And then you, of course, have Dalvin Cook, who's available, who I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be in the business of courting for to split time with James Conner. So I think it just kind of just makes sense, right? So I think Justin Jackson could potentially, I think that's a name to really keep an eye on with the open spots on the Arizona Cardinals 90-man roster.
If you're not familiar with Jackson, first of all, he signed late last year. He signed with the Detroit Lions, I think, in August, right around the first week of August. So he's used to this offseason period. But number one, he's a tremendous pass protector. So he's somebody that you would feel confident having back there next to Colt McCoy or Kyler Murray. He also played significant downs in that, I want to call it pivotal, but the monster win on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers, that the Lions upset the Packers, sent them home. Lions really should have been in the playoffs. I love that. I thought that was fantastic. And so this is not
he'd taken snaps from DeAndre Swift late in that season.
I could have taken snaps from DeAndre Swift.
Well, I mean, as an angry DeAndre Swift fantasy football manager, I was befuddled by it. It was frustrating. But then
DeAndre
you saw
Swift doesn't know how to run north and south. I'm just saying.
All right, thanks, producer Shane. Jerk.
Yeah, very aggressive.
How dare you add any logic to my frustration?
I hate DeAndre Swift. If you couldn't tell.
I know you do.
And James Robinson, I think you can throw into that too. But I think James Robinson, just like Kareem Hunt and Dalvin Cook, it's gonna be more of a we'll say warmer commodity. I'm not gonna say hot commodity.
It just feels like, I mean, I don't want to pull too much out of the Detroit Lions playbook, but it feels like the Cardinals' mindset is going to be very similar to Detroit these first 2 years under Dan Campbell. Is run the football, protect Jared Goff, protect Colt McCoy, protect Kyler Murray, work off of play action. Don't put them in a position where they're having to throw the ball. The Lions got into some shootouts because their defense was so bad. Thank goodness the Cardinals didn't hire Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator. But they had Jamal Williams, they had Justin Jackson, they had DeAndre Swift. And I was looking at some box scores from November. To Bo's point, I mean, Justin Jackson at halftime would have 10 to 12 touches more than DeAndre Swift. So this is a guy who can run in between the tackles. And who knows, like, I could be sitting here like an idiot clamoring for Kareem Hunt. Like, they could be very similar, comparable players right now. Whereas Kareem Hunt's got a bunch of mileage under his belt for both Kansas City and then, of course, once upon a time for Cleveland last year. So, and he was hurt for part of that. So Justin Jackson is exactly the kind of caliber back that they should be adding. And then who knows, if Keontae Ingram surprises and forces his way on the field, 100%, absolutely. I think I saw him making a one-handed catch in a Cardinal video recently. He's a nice young complimentary back that I hope makes this roster because he was a draft pick for the Cardinals. I always root for that. Chase Edmonds survived multiple coaching changes en route to playing out all 4 years and making a nice comeback. I think Chase, by the way, is still a free agent. So the running back group is an interesting one that we feel like the Cardinals are going to dabble in, but it wouldn't be the first segment of PHNX Cardinals this week if we didn't talk about Budda Baker. So I'll go on the record, Bo Brock. I think the biggest checklist item, because you can add backs in August, you can add a receiver. They got to get Budda Baker's contract either reworked or extended before training camp. Yeah, you can't let this go into August.
So if this is the next part of the checklist as far as what Monti Ossenfort has to do.
I feel like it's the first item, but we didn't go in order. We didn't go in alphabetical order. I'm just telling you right now, I feel like this has to be done before late July. Do you agree with that?
It's just like what I'm going to see this weekend. My wife's going to give me a list of stuff to do, and it's not going to be in any particular order. Just get it done, Monty, right? It's Monty's honey-do list between now and training camp.
Day. You shouldn't have to do anything this weekend.
Yeah,
that's what I tell my wife
that. It doesn't.
That's right.
She doesn't care. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Find some sort of resolution. What's it look like? Is it a restructure? Is it guaranteeing the second year? Is it just throwing a couple extra mil this season? We'll see. I mean, whatever it is, whatever you can do to make Budda Baker happy, but also keep your power position and showing that, players aren't going to force your hand into doing anything like the previous regime would kind of just bend the knee to any kind of hold in or any kind of fear tactic to say, well, I'm not going to play unless you do A, B, or C. So I think it's important for Monti Ossenfort to continue to kind of flex and show how powerful he is as a first-year GM, because he's already kind of held off a bunch of people that have been trying to take advantage of him from the jump, from people giving him requesting trades as far as for the third overall pick that he held out to the very bitter end and got very good return for that. And he held out for the 4th overall pick that he traded down with on draft day. So he's really solid as far as a negotiator and standing his ground and making sure he gets value for it, even to the extent of he didn't give DeAndre Hopkins the power at the end of the day. He just outright released him. If they couldn't find a trade partner that would have been viewed as decent return for DeAndre Hopkins, he wasn't willing to kind of give in his part. Monti Ossenfort was said, well, we just can't roll your salary over beyond 2023. So here's what we're going to do. So if they can find something that makes both parties happy with Budda Baker, the time is between now and the regular season, because I don't think anybody's going to want to have the appetite to negotiate beyond that. And I think that's why Budda in February, that's why he started it, just like the Kyler thing from a year ago. I mean, you got to start, especially with a team that's going to be preoccupied by cleaning up the mess from the previous front office, that they're going to have their priorities, and he's got to add that to it. And I think that this is the time to figure it out if they're going to do anything.
100%. Dean keeping me honest in the chat. Chase Edmonds did sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not for very much money. So anxious to see Chase on a bad team this fall. Diego Perez stating this, Rap Sheet went on McAfee today and said he doesn't think the Cardinals are going to trade Budda Baker, which we all know. This podcast has been telling you guys that for the last couple of months, that there's no interest in by the Cardinals, unlike Hopkins, with trading Budda Baker. And to kind of pivot off of Michael Evans' comment here that Monti is one tough dude. We've seen Monti go through the rigors of the draft. We've seen him sign, some low-level free agents, not in terms of like people, but just small contracts, right? What haven't we seen him do yet? And then this isn't a knock on him. We just don't know how he's wired. We haven't seen Monti Ossenfort give out a bunch of guaranteed money. We haven't seen him do a 3 to 5 year deal, $20 million guaranteed. Now, I'm not saying that's what Budda Baker is going to get, but I do think that this Budda extension, it will be the first internal extension of no. Yes, they re-signed Will Hernandez and Kelvin Beachum. Those guys are making no money. You could cut them tomorrow, and it would be like a fart in the wind, with all due respect to those guys. There's just very little money associated with all.
You can't say that.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't say it's like a fart in the wind, with all due respect. That's one of the most disrespectful things you can say.
No, with all due respect to those guys, they could be cut tomorrow. They're not going to be cut. They're going to be around, but they're not hampering the team financially.
Yeah,
he hasn't picked up a 5th-year option for a certain linebacker safety hybrid player once upon a time. This would be the first real time that we see Monti Ossenfort say, all right, licks his pen, opens up the checkbook with Michael Bidwell and says, here, Budda, take some guaranteed money. So until it happens, I'm really anxious to see when and how it would all break down. But I'm with you. I think it's in, fix this situation. You got Budda Baker walking around. Is he walking around without shoes at practice?
I haven't seen him with shoes.
Is he saying the Cardinals, I'm so grossly underpaid, I can't afford to wear shoes anymore, and the Cardinals taking away my shoes?
Shoeless Budda Baker.
He's show how poverty the Arizona Cardinals are by walking around shoeless at practice. How do you have your best player without?
Yeah, especially after the NFL PA report card where they called the gym floor a hazard, and he's walking around there
to get a nail
like
in the
he's
foot.
John McClane in Die Hard, walking barefoot on glass. It's dangerous, Budda.
He wants to join McDonough in the lawsuit factor with walking over a nail or a floorboard and sue the Cardinals for that money that he may or may not get from Monti Ossenfort. But didn't we see him doing like plyometrics are working out without shoes. I think it's just his thing.
Yeah, his guy Justin King, who's his trainer over there at I think it's Build Better or Better Built. He had him squatting without his shoes on. It's absurd.
Dean in the chat, Bidwell charges for shoes. I'm surprised we hadn't thought of that. Well, I wanted to buy shoes. I didn't have my checkbook on me today,
right.
And the Cardinals cost $125, so I had to go bum some Venmo money off of Marco Wilson. Well, all right, I think we're
Here's
both
your bill.
Camp.
Yeah,
right. It's taken out of Budda. Here's your new guaranteed contract. We had to deduct it for your new shoes, though. Sorry about that. So I'm short $125. That's Frank Sanders ask.
Here's the charge for the shoes and the ream of paper that we had to print out onto, and the ink that we used on it.
That Bill Bidwell, man, he was a stickler. All right, so we both think.
Let me ask you this though: if in the worst of all realities, I don't believe it's going to happen. I think that they're close to some sort of resolution and reconciliation in getting Budda back on the field, where he plays he's at his best. If Budda isn't there, I don't view Isaiah Simmons as Budda Baker's replacement.
Well, you're there every day.
Yeah.
I would say
I really
the
think
casuals. I'm a casual. The casuals out there.
You're more than a casual.
We feel like he would be the replacement, because I'm gonna tell you right now, we had a, and you and I talked about this off air. We had an Isaiah Simmons clip at PHNX_Cardinals. Go follow, by the way. We're quickly approaching 9,000 followers. We had a video clip of Isaiah Simmons saying, "I'm moving from linebacker to DBs. I'm a defensive back now," and it had a lot of engagement. Well, the engagement we thought was partially Cardinal fans. It was from Eagle fans, because Eagle fans took that as Budda Baker is coming to Philadelphia and Isaiah Simmons is replacing him as his safety, his air. So the casuals on Twitter believe that while Budda is away, Isaiah Simmons will play his position at safety.
I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. I think that they've got some safeties lower in the depth chart that can play the position, more familiar with.
So what's Isaiah Simmons
the
playing?
Back, he's a slot corner. He's a nickel corner.
That sounds awful. Does that not sound terrible to you?
So I was doing some research, just looking for some comps, because who's going to play the roles of Jonathan Gannon's 2022 Philadelphia Eagles defense? Okay. And I think that just from what I've seen in practice, and look, this is as Jonathan Gannon called it, pajama ball, right? It's just you're out there in shorts and you're not really lining up and hitting anybody, and it's up to mandatory minicamp football. Just where he's lined up, where he's practicing, where it's as simple as that. It's the slot, it's the nickel corner position, and more and more teams play in the nickel the majority of the time. Like, you might have your base defense, but I think I saw Dallas played in the nickel at least 90% of the snaps last year. It's insane. And Avonte Maddox is the comp that I found, that I think that's the role from the 2022 Eagles. That
he's a household name for sure.
Well, I mean, he played good ball.
Who is it?
Are you being sarcastic?
I am. Yeah, I don't know who the hell that is.
No, he played good ball for the Eagles. Avonte Maddox.
Avonte Maddox, you are a casual, Johnny.
Avonte Maddox? I know the kid that went to the Raiders. They had him, right? That the Cardinals were in.
Yeah, Epps was a safety.
Epps was a safety. Of course, CJ, who trashed Jonathan Gannon on his way out after Gannon made him a ton of money. CJ Gardner.
Yeah.
Johnson was a safety.
And
Avonte Maddox. I think he went he's from Detroit, I think, originally. He's undersized, though. Isn't he little? How big is Avonte Maddox?
Most slot corners are little. I can't. I'll look up his profile, but I
think Avonte Maddox is a corner. I don't think he's a safety.
No, he's a nickel slot corner.
Wait, isn't Isaiah Simmons a safety now? Why is he?
No, he said he's playing DB. He didn't straight up say I'm playing safety. I'm playing with the defensive backs. Yeah, Avonte Maddox is 5'9", 184. But imagine,
so Isaiah Simmons
this guy's 6'4", 240. They ran the same 40 time at the combine, 4.39.
I would like to draw your attention to Isaiah Simmons playing the slot corner in the year of our football Lord 2022. And it was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It was awful. And again, they are coached infinitely better. You talk about pajama ball. The Cardinals played pajama ball through the month of September and October last year. So I'm not putting that on Isaiah Simmons. like I watched Isaiah Simmons in year 3 as an NFL player get abused at slot corner. Why would they put him back there? What
Who did
is
he
the
get
benefit
abused
of
by?
that? I don't know. NFL players.
A guy who's going to have a bust in Canton. A guy who's going to have a gold jacket. And Travis Kelce. He abuses most
Joel,
guys.
I'm not hating. Joel, you want to put Isaiah Simmons
he's keeping his Iron Man streak up of slandering Isaiah
No,
Simmons. That's exactly what you're doing.
With Isaiah.
You're the Cal Ripken Jr. of slandering Isaiah Simmons every day.
Thank you, Agent 47. Simmons at corner is not a good idea. I thought the plan was Cam Chancellor, Jamal Adams, Isaiah Simmons.
Okay.
Those are the guys he looks like, that he's built like.
Okay.
Slot corner, 5'9". You're naming off practice squad level players for the Eagles. That should be Antonio Hamilton.
Did you call Avonte Maddox?
I'm pretty sure he started in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
he played 75% of the snaps for the Eagles that were one of the top defenses in the league.
I'm not a hater.
Don't take the position, and that's the difference. It's like what people view as traditional slot corner, nickel corner. Jonathan Gannon has, I guess, bigger role than most coaches have, most defensive play callers.
Tell us about Four Peaks. I'm looking up Isaiah Simmons slot corner grade via Pro Football Book. That's why you do that.
Well, I've got it up right now. You want to see
do you have his slot corner PFF?
Well, I mean, as far as the snaps that he played in slot, he played 409 slot snaps last season.
What was his grade?
His coverage grade last year was 69.9.
But from slot corner.
I don't think it breaks it down from the position.
What am I paying for, PFF? I don't get that.
Well, you're not. You stole it from your ex-girlfriend.
She was a
just
football
like your
junkie.
Netflix account.
That's right. I've been with my wife for 11 years. I've had this account for 12 years. That's right. I've had PFF premium grades for 12 years. All right. Tell us about Four Peaks.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Four Peaks. We love being partnered up with Four Peaks. It's the official beer sponsor of PHNX Sports, and you've got to be following along on Instagram. They're always, unveiling some of their great beers that they've just brewed on location, like their Staycation IPA, which is so delicious. They've got the green tea lager, which they unleash during the spring season and into the summer. And of course, you got the old steadies like the Kilt Lifters, the Flagship. You got the Wow Wheat, which hits a little bit differently in summer months, doesn't it? It's so refreshing. Can't go wrong with the #1 wheat beer in Arizona. But you got to be following along at Four Peaks Pub, at Four Peaks Brew, because on their IG, on their social media accounts, they'll give you opportunities to win some great things. Like you can win 4 seats to a Diamondbacks game. They've got some great giveaways and to teachers. They got the 4peaksforteachers.org. Check that out and give to the teachers before the next school year. Check everything out. Make sure you're following along on social, but more importantly, go to the 8th Street location in Tempe. Have a great meal. That means they got the great appetizers like the chicken rolls. You got the Four Peaks garlic cheese beer bread, which is delicious. You got the Italian beef beer bread for a great entree. Get it with the Four Peaks style French fries, and then also get dessert and enjoy some great beer along the way. Got to be 21 years or older and drink responsibly over at Four Peaks, Johnny.
You absolutely love to see it. I'm going to share my screen here in a second while we talk about Isaiah Simmons PFF grades. But first, I'm going to talk to you about swinging for the fences with our friends at BetMGM, the official home of PHNX Cardinals each and every football Sunday. This fall, we're going to be at the BetMGM Sportsbook on the Great Lawn at State Farm Stadium, where I can yell at Isaiah Simmons from their balcony. I cannot wait for all of you to join us. And in the meantime, get this sweet, sweet offer in 3 easy steps. You take your smart device, your phone, your computer, log on the BetMGM Sportsbook app, and then you play the BetMGM MLB free-to-play game from now until September 7th, 2023. Be a batter and pick an area of the strike zone and win big. Depending on the area of the strike zone you pick, double, single, triple, or home run, or the pop out, and receive the prize associated with that type of hit and or out. You got to play once a day, and the prizing must be used on an MLB bet, and it expires in 24 hours. So if you win, you got to use it quick. And if you haven't signed up yet, be quick on that too. Use that BetMGM Sportsbook app and that bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our friends in Arizona, you're going to get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, make sure you're using that bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Sweet Baby Shane, producer today, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
Isaiah Simmons is beloved. I'm seeing that now in the chat. Antoine, I'm sorry. Johnny out here hating, can't finish a beer without sipping on it. Listen, I do take a long time to finish my beer. I enjoy it. Laugh out loud. This is a grown-up conversation, sir. Listen, Isaiah Simmons spurned this program twice. That is part of the fuel for my fire. I'm going to try to be objective here.
I love this idea. The Johnny Hater shirt in the PHNX locker.
I could totally get behind the Johnny Hater arc. That sounds like it would sell.
All right, so here's some haterade for you. This is Isaiah Simmons' weekly grades via Pro Football Focus. This is not the end-all be-all, and by the way, this is also coming from one Vance Joseph. So again, I've always said I agree with Vance that his development was skewed by the prior regime. So what are we looking at here, Bo? So we've got coverage grades on the right. So I'm going to organize it by coverage grades, right? And then I'm going to go look over here. I will say that the game in which he played his most coverage snaps, albeit against shitty Tampa, 47, right, against Tom Brady. Remember that game on, was it Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? He had an 88 on Christmas. He had an 88 coverage grade, 47 snaps in coverage. That's better than I thought. So I'll give you that. But looking some of these grades down here, Atlanta and San Francisco, those were the last two games of the season. 50 snaps in coverage combined, sub 50. Not great. So I would say there's some reason for optimism.
Where was he playing those games, Johnny?
Well, I think he was playing. Was he also playing a little bit in the? I mean, if a coverage grade's a coverage grade.
Didn't they have him play a little safety with Budda Baker out those games?
I don't remember. Is that where he was playing?
We'd have to look at the breakdown, but I would imagine that they probably with Budda Baker and his cracked shoulder, that they had him slide into the safety spot, play some of those snaps.
I mean, here was the horror show against, where's Kansas City? Here's the horror show against Kansas City. 36 coverage snaps, mostly in the slot, sub 50. So,
he is who he is when he played Travis Kelce. So when he plays Travis Kelce, that's Isaiah Simmons. That's the true Isaiah Simmons, in your opinion.
Stop. Again, you'll have to convince me that it's a good idea to play.
When you compare him to Avonte Maddox as far as coverage snaps, they're very similar. They're very comparable.
I mean, Avonte Maddox is a friend of the program.
Is he really?
No, I interviewed him at the Super Bowl. You can find that on our YouTube channel.
Don't tell him I said he was a practice squad player.
He played 75% of the snaps for a very, very good Philadelphia Eagles defense last year.
Okay.
69.1, a very nice coverage grade for Avonte Maddox. When you look at Isaiah Simmons, he had a 69.9 coverage grade.
Okay. Here's the difference, Avonte. Avonte was not taken first round, eighth pick. And then you look at his height. I think this is just unprecedented. I think we're back into why are we doing what we're doing? Don't you think so?
I think Isaiah Simmons now has a very good idea of what his role is going to be for this defense, to where the previous 3 seasons he had no idea on any given down, any given situation where he was going to be.
Slot corner.
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit against Tampa. 55 snaps in the slot, 88 coverage, 37 snaps in the slot against Philadelphia, 70.4. That's against Gannon, so I'm sure he watched that. New England, 78. Okay, this is making me feel a little bit better. So some of his top grades outside of against Kansas City in the slot, he had good games. So
so Blaine in the chat saying he lost the Chargers game, right? So he's covering. He's got to pick up the assignment to take down Austin Eckler, and he's got the assignment on Gerald Everett. He's not going to be in those positions.
Okay, my pushback. You're playing good players every week. I don't want to do the thing where you lost to this player and this is a good player. Isaiah Simmons should be a good player. Isaiah Simmons was a top 10 player. So I don't need Isaiah Simmons to dominate against like backups and feel good about it, I can do that in August. Put Isaiah Simmons out there for the 3 preseason games. He'll rack up a bunch of statistics. The point of drafting Isaiah Simmons was he's going to take out George Kittle, right? He's going to take out these elite tight ends in the division. And so until I see that happen,
he's been very bad against tight ends.
He has. Now, but again, I'll credit where credit's due. This is promising. 55, 37, 36, 29. Those are some of his top grades last year from the slot in coverage. So I trust Jonathan Gannon. If I'm not going to come here and be a hypocrite, ex-DB safety, and if they want to put him there, this is not Vance Joseph and Cliff Kingsbury. So I give them the immense benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
thank you.
You should. And I think just having a really good idea of where you're supposed to be, and you could call it what it is, and it's not going to be this. What Jonathan Gannon, what he wants to get from his slot corner, his nickel corner, isn't going to be the same what Vance Joseph wanted to get from his guys either. It's different. It changes from defense to defense. And I think I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to JG and his plan for Isaiah Simmons. Now, things can change, right? I mean, if he goes out there week 1 and you got, I don't know who John Dotson or Terry McLaurin, he has to gets tough assignments like them, and he gets, cooked and toasted, then we'll have to reevaluate.
I'm going to tell you right now, if he plays slot corner and a little bit of safety, but he plays slot corner and he has a really nice year, do you think that helps his case to be re-signed? I think so. When you have Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson already making a bunch of money, and you can justify it by saying, well, Isaiah Simmons, yes, he's another DB, but he's a corner now. I thought it would hurt him just being a safety. But if he's playing a vital role as a slot corner in Gannon's secondary that's going to have 5 or 6 defensive backs routinely, I think at the very least it helps him maybe get a franchise tag where it wouldn't have before.
Yeah, and I see Agent 47 put him as a third safety. It's basically like having a third safety on the field. And I think
he'll play some third safety,
right.
Especially
and look, I mean, if Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rollis can find out a way to harness the athleticism and the freakishness of Isaiah Simmons, it's just going to be good for everybody. If they can unlock that. Whether it's him saying, I'm a defensive back and I'm going to play nickel, I'm going to play slot corner, but he's productive and he's making an impact down to down. That's all that matters. And then it's up to the rest of the league. It's going to be other teams who are going to evaluate him and try to figure out, okay, how do we kind of figure out and diagnose how we want to approach Isaiah Simmons? We want to play him in a similar role. How do we pay him? And that all gets really complicated, but that's stuff that you figure out down the road. Right now, Isaiah Simmons knows that the most important thing for him to do is learn his position and excel at that in the 2023 season in order to get the bag in the 2024 offseason.
He's such a specimen when you see him in person and on TV, but like physically, he just doesn't look like a slot corner. So, and then you have nightmarish flashbacks to the game. He's struggled, albeit for Vance Joseph. It's just like, what are we doing? Half the fan base wanted to move him to edge rusher, and rightfully so. They're like, look at him. He's 6'4". He's lean. He's got explosiveness. Why can't he play on the edge? I think you're right. I think that's the most. What do we need to do for Isaiah Simmons to play his best football? You have to trust John Gannon, who's got how many years, decades worth of coaching defensive football to say, this is Isaiah Simmons' best position. Let's worry about getting paid and projections for future contracts in 2024. Let's have him play, for the first time in his NFL career, a complete season where he doesn't have Vance Joseph breathing over his neck and sitting him. I want to, all seriousness, come on this show and admit that, hey, I was wrong. He's got it all figured out now. He's got a future with this team. I need to see it first. I need to see consistent. I mean, he was benched week 1 last year. I need to see consistent play, and I trust Jonathan Gannon to do it. So that's been part of the offseason to figure out what to do with Isaiah Simmons. Well, somebody who's agreed with the Cardinals offseason and their progress, Bo, the 33rd team, which is led by Ari, I can't remember his last name, on Twitter. He's a prominent NFL reporter and writer. He gave the Cardinals some serious accolades on Twitter. Now, they're not projected. This is Ari Mirov on Twitter of the 33rd team, very prominent NFL reporter. He's not saying the Cardinals are going to win a bunch of games this fall, Bo, but he does give them one of the 5 best moves of the offseason in terms of their entire approach. If you're for our audio listeners, they've got the Eagles finalizing Jalen Hurts' contract early, Patriots hiring Bill O'Brien as their OC, Green Bay for the return and compensation for Aaron Rodgers, and then Baltimore in the handling of Lamar Jackson. But the Cardinals are on this list with 4 other teams that figure to be in the playoff mix for their entire offseason approach. And I got to say, I agree with it. I think the Cardinals should be getting more credit for what they've done this offseason. And I don't think it was until the draft where people started to perk up. And now subsequently, since they've seen the Ossenfort draft night video, which is fantastic if you haven't seen it yet, for me, it's the Cardinals stripping it down, calculating each move, cutting DeAndre Hopkins, eating the money now, $21 million in dead cap, all the assets. Because, I mean, we get to October and people are going to start, especially the teams that are out of it, they're going to start looking ahead to next spring and next draft season and the free agent season and the combine. The Cardinals are going to have more money and more draft capital than any team. And kudos to Ari and the 33rd team for having the foresight to point that out.
Yeah, I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are your friend that's been an absolute mess. You love them to death, and you see all the potential, and they continue to make mistake after mistake, right? Spend their money in the wrong spots. They date the wrong people. They're in a dead-end job, or they don't have a job. It's like they've got gainful employment. They're paying their bills on time, and they're not going out and staying out until 3 a.m, spending their paycheck on booze or something like that. You're like, oh, you're just doing the things that you need to do to better yourself. You're exercising. You're doing things that to everybody else is like, oh, that's just what you do, right? But the Arizona Cardinals are taking their medicine. They're eating their vegetables. They're saving money, and they're doing exactly what they want. There's nothing flashy about it. There's nothing sexy about it. There was a little. I mean, as far as the trades to accumulate some assets for next draft, that's pretty damn sexy. But I think for them to be on this list, producer Shane, can I see it again? Where you've got 3 quarterback moves, basically. You've got 2 deals between the Hurts and Lamar Jackson, which were one of the biggest headline-making moves of the offseason, and then the trade of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, to be in the same, I guess, top 5 list as those, I think that's impressive. That's a job well done by Monti Ossenfort this offseason, to be in the same conversation as a Jalen Hurts big-time deal and Lamar Jackson big-time deal and Aaron Rodgers going from Green Bay to the Jets, and what the Green Bay was able to get back in return, even though everybody knew that the blinker was on as far as what direction he was going. That's impressive. And then I don't know about Bill O'Brien. Seems like that could be a good move, but you're still
that's a layup.
Yeah, you still have Mac Jones as your starting quarterback and your backup's Bailey Zappi. But yeah, I think that's solid. What's up, Shane?
Why are we just always taking shots at Bailey Zappi on this show?
I don't know.
He leads. He has the all-time record for the most passing yards and touchdowns in a college football season.
Going to be throwing to DeAndre Hopkins, it sounds like, this fall, too.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So sounds like D-Hop to the Patriots.
Connection.
I saw 2 reports today. One was that things went so well in Tennessee and Nashville that they've made him a deal. And he said he's doing exactly what he should do. He's like, okay, cool. Let me see if I can get what else is out there. I
want to play with Mahomes. I want to play with Josh Allen. Give me an all-pro.
DeAndre Hopkins just got asked to prom by his friend. Like, hey, you want to go? He's like, cool. Let me just see what else we got, and I'll get back to you. And is it an upgrade that he could be catching passes from Mac Jones and the Bailey Zappi of Western Kentucky Hilltopper football greatness?
DeAndre Hopkins would rather, and to each their own, would rather make $13 million this year instead of 5, obviously, and have about 800 yards receiving than play for a championship with Buffalo or Kansas City. That's just say what it is, DeAndre. The Cardinals, like I got asked this earlier today, what happens with all that money from D-Hop? Like he was going to make 30 and then they cut him. So like what? No, the Cardinals gave him a check for $21 million. He's getting $21 million from the Arizona Cardinals. So now he's going out and trying to double down and eclipse the 30 million by adding like 10 or 15 or 20 from another team to be terrible, to be on a terrible team. The Titans are going to be awful. They're a team. They're the opposite of the 33rd team's accolades for the Cardinals. Most people are like, you needed to strip that down. Like like they've got security with their head coach and now their GM. Like, tear it down. Take a rebuild year. He's going to go play with Will Levis, who's having Will Levis is having the opposite of Michael Wilson this spring during minicamp, where he just can't hit people in broad daylight with the football. That's where D-Hop wants to go. And you got Ryan Tannehill talking about playing with him. I also heard about Treylon Burks, our draft darling last year. You know what they said about Treylon Burks? What the biggest thing is? He needs to work on his conditioning. Yikes. Yeah, so I'm sure they're going to write a big fat check for DeAndre Hopkins.
Does he have Eddie Lacy body? Is he got if he looks at a snack table, he gains a couple LBs?
This podcast loved Treylon Burks, so I'm not going to say I told you so. We wanted him here, but he was a big guy at Arkansas. So it just, and Juju's already hurt for New England. So yeah, D-Hop and his agent smell blood in the water here financially, but it was never about winning. Can we confirm that? It's never about winning. It was always about the money. He's got how much money do you need? You want to be a legend? You just had a ding for PEDs. You've been hurt. Go try to win a championship in Kansas City. They need you. They want you there.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to do
it. It's strange. I've seen nothing like it. And let me tell you about something that there's nothing like it in the Valley. And I'm talking, of course, of our friends over at Octane Raceway and Mavericks in Scottsdale. Go enjoy, have a blast over at Octane. That's right. You're zipping around the track.
Is that good, Johnny?
That's right. You had Memorial Day. They had a great little event go down for Memorial Day. They've still got great things going down over at Mavericks. You've got so many things you can take advantage of this summer, or soon to be summer, at Octane Raceway in Mavericks. Kart racing, virtual reality, laser tag, axe throwing, of course. That's right. Our friends over at PHNX Cardinals, we have elite axe throwers. Also bowling arcade, great food and drinks, tons of different events throughout the summer. Check out octaneraceway.com and mavericks.com to learn more.
So I live less than 30 seconds away from Circle K.
You live in Tucson, basically.
No, I live in Maricopa. It is a real place. That might not always be the case. So I am just cherishing my time right now, living down the street from the place that I can get buy one, get one free, not 16, not 24, 32-ounce mother effing Polar Pops. And all you've got to do is text PHNX right now to 31310 to join their exclusive SMS subscriber club to get those Polar Pops on the house. I double dip. I'm going to go see The Flash after this show's over. You know where I'm going before? I'm going to Circle K. I'm going to get my Polar Pops, right? Me and the kiddo. I'm not paying those egregious movie theater Maricopa garbage prices. I'm going to Circle K. I'm wearing the cargo shorts. I'm stacking all the delicious candy, all the delicious goodies that I can get from my friends. You're going to
teach your son how to smuggle in all the Circle K goods into the theater.
Part of the venerable upbringing is he has been taught how to smuggle candy on his little 8-year-old self so we can enjoy The Flash together. The only thing I will pay for at a movie theater is movie theater popcorn, because it is elite, just like our friends at Circle K. Again, check out circlek.com/store-locator to find the Circle K nearest to you.
Sounds like a pretty great evening out there in the Copa. Can't beat that. Definitely cannot beat that. But you know, we've pretty much the supplemental draft. I saw this from Dane Brugler, draft expert, put this little nugget out there, and it got me going, because you think about ways that, you know, Monti Ossenfort could continue to maybe make this and churn this roster. Sounds like the NFL supplemental draft, according to Dane Brugler, is expected to return this summer. The NFL has not held the event since 2019. An interesting supplemental prospect, according to Brugler, and he's one of the most well-respected draft experts out there, is Purdue wide receiver Milton Wright. Have you seen the little specs on Milton Wright? 6'3" wide receiver from the Boilermakers. What do we think? You think that Monti Ossenfort can find the next Jalen Thompson in the supplemental draft?
I'm ready to dabble, because you get a 4-year rookie contract, and the Cardinals have a ton of picks next spring. You want to double dip and add a rookie this year? I mean, you have the last pick in the most recent supplemental draft in Jalen Thompson. Coincidentally, Jalen Thompson, the best day 3 pick of Keim's era, that didn't happen on day 3 of the draft. It happened in July. super funny Keim footnote here. But no, if Ossenfort wants to dabble, I tried to look up the kid from Purdue. I couldn't find a ton of information on him. He is big. He didn't play college football last year. He played in 2021, had about 700 plus yards in the Big Ten. I mean, this team needs to turn over every stone to add talent. Now, again, though, I'm looking ahead. Like, where does he fit in the receiving core with Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr.? That remains to be seen, potentially, with what the Cardinals already have. And do you re-sign Hollywood Brown? I would say maybe if it was a different position, pass rusher, offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, but I'm not above the supplemental draft. Hell yeah. If the supplemental draft becomes a real thing, we will do a supplemental draft show on this podcast. You best believe it. This to me, it's part of the NFL. It was the supplemental draft in September. You give guys opportunities to come back and try to make a name for themselves. And again, the Cardinals don't want to burn a lot of their capital from next spring, but you're not going to have to spend more than Jalen Thompson was a 5th round supplemental pick. It's one of their best picks, period, in the last half decade plus. So you should ship a 5th or a 6th. Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of teams that are aggressive in it, and you have to be patient and play your cards right, like Keim did in that situation where it cost him a 5th round pick. And
how did he pull that off?
I don't know. I mean, but also like Thompson, and maybe with this kid out of Purdue, we don't know whether or not the Arizona Cardinals would be interested in a 6'3", nearly 200-pound wide receiver, but it kind of fits the mold as far as who they've added this offseason so far. 11 picks, and if they hold out until the late rounds of supplemental and get a pick, I don't think that they would jeopardize their top 6 picks that they have within the first 3 rounds of next year, but they could dabble with the 4th round and beyond.
Listen, the supplemental draft, for all of its quirks, has a pretty good hit rate. It's like once every couple of years you get not only a good player, like Jalen Thompson's a good player, you get like Pro Bowlers. Josh Gordon went in 2012. Ahmad Brooks in 2006. Jamal Williams was a great nose tackle for the Chargers in 1998. Rob Moore, ex-Cardinal, went to the Jets once upon a time. But those are like the Pro Bowl guys. There's been a bunch of guys. Gerard Gaither, the offensive tackle, went to the Ravens. Terrell Pryor once upon a time. Sam Beal was a corner for the Giants. Isaiah Battle was a tackle who was around a long time. I mean, typically the guys get drafted. Yeah, they've got some off the field concerns, but they're good football players. It's like you don't worry about their floor, because if their floor was low, they're not getting drafted, period, because they've got off the field concerns. Where do you take chances on guys during the draft? Historically, in late April, it's on day 3. So if you want to light a 5th round pick on fire because you think this kid can eventually be a good wide receiver, I'm okay with that. Those are the kind of chances I'm always going to be fine. You'll never, just like the stuff with Hopkins now, where you could have got a 5th for him in February. No, it was worth holding out for more. You didn't get it. This team is not going to be made or broken by not getting a 5th round pick for D-Hop before you cut him on June 1st, just like you're not going to be made or broken from hitting on a supplemental kid. Now, don't touch anything beyond a 5th round or later, but I think this is great. I also think the draft should be longer, by the way. I think the regular draft should go from 7 rounds to 9 rounds, because I think there are so many priority free agents. I think number one, it's better for kids to get drafted. I think that's great. And then it's a longer product, and you could have more opportunity to mix and match draft picks. I think we're getting to that point where they're going to extend the draft.
Well, and supplementals usually for guys that fall out of favor with their college program, or something happens that's going to prevent them from really participating in the upcoming season, and it's post-draft. So that's the same thing that happened with Jalen Thompson. We love our figurines. We love all the great things that FOCO is the leading manufacturer in, and that's sports entertainment merchandise with product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. Best official licensed gear for all sports fandoms. So you can find some great Cardinals figurines and things over at FOCO. Don't miss out on it. You got baseball season going on. I'm sure they've got some great FOCO gear there, shirts. You got the straw hats, polos, bags, everything you need for the game. You're going to go check one out in Chase Field. Let FOCO just take your game to the next level. You got we got on our sets, main studio, we got some great FOCO gear. FOCO has donated awesome pieces to our sets. We love them. FOCO always has our back for Arizona sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear by visiting FOCO.com using the code PHNX. If you use PHNX, the code, you'll get some non-presale items, and use the promo code PHNX for 10% off.
So FOCO, get a ton for your money. How about this? Go PHNX.com right now, just for a few more days. For all the fathers out there, we've got the buy one, get one half off Father's Day sale at the PHNX merchandise locker. Now, probably won't get the item before Father's Day. You never know. But I'm a big fan of like taking the screen capture and just, hey, I ordered this for you, because I'm always late with my gifts. But if you're late for your gifts, why not be late with PHNX? PHNX merchandise locker, half off a hat and or shirt. You can double dip with each other. And then if you're like, well, I just would like something free for myself, you can get a free hat or shirt from the locker when you sign up to become a diehard. What does it mean to become a diehard at GoPHNX.com? Well, you get exclusive access to everything and anything on the website. That means all of Howard Balzer's articles, Jared Bourget and company, Jesse, who covers the D-backs. Everything is free. On top of that, you're part of the exclusive Cardinal member Discord. You can pop in and out of any Discord, but if you want to hang out in the Cardinals, and I would recommend that you do, the man to my right is at practice, putting exclusive content, video, insight into the Arizona Cardinals depth chart you can't get anywhere else. And then last but not least, you get exclusive access and discounts to all future PHNX-related activities, events. You can't not miss it. Check it out. GoPHNX.com. Become a diehard. I got this shirt, one of my favorites. It's the Coyotes. I'm going to rep it as long as I can until, frankly, I'm going to cut the sleeves off and it becomes part of Tank Tuesday. And then Bo Brock, the classic tee, the classic PHNX tee, one of the first that we launched with. But show us some support. Grab a PHNX Cardinals t-shirt from the merchandise locker.
We love breaking down some moves that the Arizona Cardinals need to make between now and training camp. We'll continue some of that conversation tomorrow. Any breaking news potentially, any roster additions could happen between now and then. And Budda Baker could, who knows, maybe they'll figure something out before they head into the weekend. We're going to send you off on the weekend tomorrow. Join us on a brand new episode of PHNX Cardinals. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at Johnny Venerable, at Bo Brock, at PHNX_Cardinals. We're on Instagram as well, and at PHNX Sports. Have a great rest of your Thursday, Johnny, and your son. Hopefully you successfully smuggle that candy and food into the theater. Don't get arrested, and enjoy the Flash. We'll talk to you guys mañana.